Hello, hello. Welcome to Your Home by Design, the podcast where we talk all about our homes and how they affect our health and well-being. Some episodes we delve deep into the research and some we just chat. I'm Nico, an interior designer and researcher passionate about bringing forward the findings so that you can improve your lifestyle and well-being. Grateful to have you. Let's do this. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about household routines, some of the top routines to implement, and why it's important to critique the ones you have and implement the ones you need. Also, I'm going to share the top 4 that I use. A few are tried and true, and a few I know I need to continue. So let's get started. So I think household routines go hand in hand with organization. And don't you just feel like organization is consuming us in so many ways? We are all intrigued with organization and how to get better at it, whether that's with using clear storage bins or time management apps. And such a big part of organization is having consistent routines. It really doesn't matter how organized you are in the true meaning of the word if you don't have consistency. Which, by the way, the similar words for consistency, according to the good old Oxford Dictionary, is planning, arrangement, coordination, structuring, and administration, which I love this. It's so fitting for what we're about to chat about. If you have consistency, you have routines. I think people have a desire for routines because they want and need consistency in their life. You know, after all, consistency is a key factor in success. I think this is especially true for a lot of women because women are craving for things to be simplified, to remove the guesswork, to free up some much needed mental space. You know, I think that we are so busy in so many ways, like women are crazy right now. We've got a million things on our plate, a million things on the go. And, I know for myself, I feel that too. There just isn't enough time in the day to do it all and to take care of it all. It really feels like right now, this is an important thing for people to feel organized and to have routines, to remove a bit of that guesswork, to make the days in some ways more predictable and easier to manage, to slow it down and enjoy the moment. And that means in order for this moment to be enjoyed, the next moment kind of needs to be taken care of. So when we talk about organization and routine in our homes, having an organized home, having set routines and knowing what they are and why, it's ultimately predictability. That's what routines are, is creating predictability. And although predictability does not sound very exciting, it does benefit our overall well-being. It is a stress reducer. And we have to understand that there is such a huge importance to having routines. And I get it. For all of us that would prefer to live life flying by the seat of our pants, well, for those, all we have to do is just pick some areas during our day that you're okay to just let be. You're okay to just let it unfold, and you don't need any structure there, if that's what you need. But by simply understanding that having routines can benefit you, I encourage you to keep this in mind and consider and then create some really good home routines, even if it's just a few. Having certain home routines for a sustained amount of time can actually boost your feelings of enjoyment towards a task. I know for myself, if I have the time to do something and I have a clear understanding of how long that something takes, and I've actually carved out the time to do it, it completely changes my outlook of what I have to do. And I'm actually present in that task. I'm doing this task and my mind is not jumping all over the place, thinking and feeling like I should be doing something other than what I'm doing. Every so often, I critique how I do things in our home. It's not like it's a planned activity or whatever. I just happen to start thinking about the ways things are done. And this one time, I basically started thinking through what causes ease and brings me joy and comfort, and the ways I love our home to be. And one of the things that I love is for our kitchen to be clutter-free. I just love it. And, I'm sure you can relate, right? I mean, you walk into that room and there's no clutter. You see the surfaces and the surfaces are actually reflecting back to you. Isn't it the best? And to be honest, just because I love this and I know how it affects me when it's like this, it doesn't mean that this is how my kitchen is all the time. In fact, probably 25% of the time, it's not. It's not going to stay like this. And I've worked at having these expectations in my home. And I trust that just because it's kind of gone off course today doesn't mean that this is how it's going to be every day. It's just the way it is right now. And I think, that's a bit of a lesson in life, isn't it? I mean, just because something is the way it is right now doesn't mean it's going to be this way forever. Things change, they evolve, they go off course, and it's up to us often to get them back on course. It's no different than in our homes. But the idea is that you have to understand this, and you should figure out what you need. What do you need? What brings you joy, peace, contentment, calm, comfort? Whatever outcome you want, what supports that feeling? So for me, I know I need a clutter-free kitchen, right? So a while back, I started seriously thinking through how I could make this happen more regularly. So I thought about my dishwasher. And I know this sounds kind of silly, but I thought about my routine with my dishwasher. I swear, if that dishwasher could talk, we'd probably be really good friends because we spend so much time together. Anyway, so I was thinking about the time of day I turn it on and when during my day I load it and when I empty it and all the things. Prior to changing this up, my dishwasher routine would have been something like this. I would have woken up in the morning and that dishwasher would have been sitting there clean and ready to be emptied. Now, somebody in the house would have had to empty it during the chaos of our mornings. We're all trying to get out the door. We've got work, we've got school, we've got breakfast, we've got finding library books, we've got quick readings on what the teacher's notes were from the day before, whatever, what's going on today. The morning rush is crazy. So why would I think that taking 10 minutes to empty the dishwasher with a kitchen full of people in crazy mode is a smart move? So I would leave it. I wouldn't touch it. No one would, because we wouldn't be able to tackle it right then and there. No one had the time to empty the dishwasher in the morning. So then what happened? Well, after breakfast, the breakfast dishes are sitting there. And then if I'm working from home that day, my lunch dishes end up sitting there. And then the kids come home from school and there's snack dishes. And then my husband's lunch stuff when he gets home from work, and dinner's made. And then there's cooking dishes. And then after dinner, there's dinner dishes. And I'm trying to find out when I can empty the dishwasher and reload it to clean up the kitchen. And then I'm hoping that everything's going to fit in that load. So I turn it on and it's ever changing. There was just no consistent time when I emptied it. I would turn it on before bed, and in the morning it's there ready for me to empty, clean and gleaming, but being ignored, and I thought about it. I took the time to say, I like my kitchen to be clutter-free for at least 75% of the time. So as a result, I worked backwards from that. What is the main thing that clogs my kitchen? And oftentimes that is those dishes, the dish plates, the cups, and all of the things I just mentioned. So because of the shuffle of coming in and going out and all of the things, the busyness, it's important for me to address that I need consistency here. I need to figure out a system that works, that's going to improve this whole process. So what do? I stop and I think about what would the ideal time be to have an empty dishwasher, and what would the ideal time be to turn it on. So the other thing that I got over was the fact that I don't always need to have a full dishwasher before I turn it on. My dishwasher can absolutely be half full. I have a cycle that says half load, which means I am not wasting water. It is preset. So I do this from time to time if I have, for whatever reason, extra dishes throughout the day. But anyway, so I decided to change it up. I'm going to turn my dishwasher on at a different time, and I'm going to empty it at a different time. So here's what I did. I thought through our daily activities and our daily congestion in the kitchen, and I decided that the best time for us to turn the dishwasher on was around 3:30. So here's the deal. Here's how it works. Now, I wake up in the morning and the dishwasher is dirty. It's not full of clean dishes. It's sitting there waiting for the breakfast dishes. So after breakfast, we pop the dishes in the dishwasher, and that works. Then when the kids get home from school, they have their snack, and in goes their snack dishes, along with their lunch kits. And I turn it on right then and there. 3:30. That dishwasher goes on. It's on for about an hour and a half. So that means for me, right before I start dinner, the first thing that happens is I empty the dishwasher. I'm already in the kitchen. I'm about to start dinner. So now is the time to empty the dishwasher. Take 10, 15 minutes. It's not crazy in the house. Usually the kids are just taking it easy. They've had a long day, so it's a quiet time. So I empty the dishwasher and then I start cooking. And it's amazing how everything has changed as a result of bumping the time. So I'm cooking. The pots or whatever I've used to cook go right in the dishwasher. And our dinner dishes go in the dishwasher. And then it continues in the morning. The breakfast dishes go in the dishwasher. The lunch dishes. And then at 3:30, that dishwasher goes back on and the cycle starts again. And this is how it works. And I love it because it keeps things moving from simply bumping the time so that I can be more efficient and be more consistent. So I want to share my top 4 home routines. And before I get into it, something to add is often the hardest part is getting creative in how you actually need your routines to serve you. Problem solving and finding solutions and then planning the routine is often the most challenging. Figuring out the best times for things and the order of things. But once that's in place, you can start and stop as life ebbs and flows. The main thing is you have the system to fall back on. You've already put it in place. So let's get into the top 4. So the first one is a good bedtime routine. Now, I know that when we talk about a bedtime routine, it may sound a bit mundane. Like, yeah, I brush my teeth and I wash my face every night. I've got a good routine. But here's the thing. The benefits to a good bedtime routine are this. If you have the same routine every night, it signals to your body that the day is done, that it's time to wind down and decompress, which may even increase your ability to sleep. Having a bedtime routine can help you keep organized. Okay, so I have a funny story. So I go to bed at about 10 o'clock, and up until I go to bed, I'm wearing my day clothes. So by this time, I'm usually pretty tired, so I head upstairs and I'm trying to be quiet because the kids are sleeping and I'm usually feeling pretty lazy. So when I change into my pajamas, half of those day clothes end up on my bench. The things that need to be washed, I put in the hamper, but the things that need to be hung up or folded, I don't do it at that time of night. Instead, I put them on my bench. And depending on how crazy the week's been, I usually don't get to it for a couple days. And you know the drill, right? The next few days, your clothes end up on the bench or the chair or wherever, right? And then you're left with several days worth of clean clothes that you now need to hang up. And you also need to put all the clean laundry away that you've been doing at the same time. So I looked at it and I thought, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Why am I not hanging my clothes up and putting them away? Like, this is ridiculous. And again, looking at what makes me happy within my home. And what makes me happy is when I walk into my room at night and it is not cluttered, it's clean, it's organized, and it feels good. Simple, right? Because if it feels good to me, then I feel good. So here's my solution. I get my pajamas on earlier now. It's simple. After we put the kids to bed, at that point, I'm ready to wind down. So I get those comfies on at about 8:30. And at that time of night, I'm not as tired. So putting my clothes away and folding things doesn't feel as daunting. So I've been doing this and it's been working. Such a small adjustment. So we really need to start thinking about how you can shift your bedtime routines to align with how you need your home to function, and do this consistently. So the next one is morning routine, number 2. So we all have a morning routine, whether you label it a routine or not. You do similar things every morning. But have you ever critiqued that morning routine? Have you ever thought about that routine that you just let happen as a result of like being in a morning fog? Something that I love, but I'm working on changing, is this idea of sitting. Just sitting and sipping my coffee and watching the minutes tick by. Seriously, in the morning, does not 5 minutes disappear in seconds? I sit down and think, okay, I'll sit for 20 minutes, enjoy my coffee before the madness begins. And next thing you know, 20 minutes is gone. So what do? I end up sitting a little bit longer and extending that time. And even though this idea of just sitting sounds so nice, it just doesn't serve me in the morning, especially if I keep extending that time. So I've been working on switching my outlook on this. I'm starting to get up at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. for me isn't really that daunting, because nothing compares to the early years of kids when they wake up at all sorts of times. So as long as I get to bed at a good time, and this is key, I have to be in bed by 10. It's psychological for me. If I'm not in bed by 10 the night before, I won't wake up at 6. So I get up at 6 and have a workout. I now reserve Sunday morning to sit endlessly in my PJs and sip coffee for hours if I want. Studies say that if you work out in the morning, it is really beneficial to your overall health. And I think they say even a morning walk is good. So when things are considered in the morning routine, it feels like clockwork and you can relax. You can move through your routine with ease. So morning routines are great. Working out in the morning is very beneficial. So number 3 is meal planning. Okay, so this is a bit of an obsession of mine. I started meal planning several years ago, and I would say that this has made my life so much easier. So for anyone that doesn't have a meal plan, you've got to start. It's just so beneficial. So for starters, if you have a budget, meal planning helps keep the budget on track. So here's sort of what my meal plan looks like. I sit down Thursday evening before dinner and I plan the week. So my meal planning week is from Saturday to Saturday. So I write down on a whiteboard that goes on our fridge the week. So the week's lunches, dinners, and snacks. This allows me to then write out a grocery list based on what we'll be eating. So I look through the cupboard to see what we have and what we need as I'm working through my grocery list. And once I've done these, I then go online and order my groceries right then and there. And I have 3 places that I shop. 2 of them are online, and one of them is a physical store that I visit. And I do that on a Saturday. It's a quick shop. I keep the list small, and I'm in and I'm out. So I have this process dialed. I have a Pinterest board for dinners and snacks. So as I sit down on that Thursday, I browse through the recipes that I love while I make my weekly plan. And this allows my week to run smoothly. And the result is you get an overview of your diet. You can see on a weekly basis what you are eating, what your kids are eating, how much protein you're getting, or whatever the stuff that you're focusing on. So which then it just means that you can adjust your eating habits to increase your health or whatever it is. You just have this amazing overview of your diet. You can also manage your budget better because it allows you to see exactly what you're spending for the entire week. So you're not rushing to the store numerous times and kind of getting lost in where you're at on your groceries. Because you're not running to the store so many times, it saves you tons of time. I can't stress it enough. So definitely number 3, meal planning is a must. And number 4 is a cleaning schedule. So this one thing is, again, this is another must. You've got to have a cleaning schedule. And I'm going to reiterate that, if you have the schedule, then if life gets busy and you get off of that schedule for a while, that's okay. But the most important thing is that you have the schedule and you can get back on it when things allow. So having a cleaning schedule allows you to stay on top of your home maintenance. If you have a consistent schedule, then it means your house is always clean. Now, it doesn't mean it's always tidy, but it's clean. And having a consistent routine here removes the guesswork and alleviates unnecessary stress. So I know that I said my top 4, but I just want to add one more. So I guess number 5 is tech-free time. To carve out time every day to leave tech alone. Put the phone face down in another room, pick up a book, play games with your kids, sit and stare out the window, go for a walk, ponder, whatever it is, just stay away from tech for a small amount of time every day. After my kids go to bed, I like to light a candle, get cozy on the sofa, and read an actual book, the ones with pages made of paper. Or sometimes, me and my husband just sit and have tea and chat. So tech-free time is really important. So in closing, getting clear on what routines you need in your home to suit how best you want to live is key, as is setting routines and evaluating the routines you have. As boring as routines sound, they are good for us. So enjoy the routine so you can enjoy the magic in life. Thanks for listening.